Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are taking on a book that is, well, it's frankly astounding because of its age and, its staying power.
Right.
Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. I mean, we're talking about an operating manual for human interaction written 84 years ago.
84 years.
And it still feels like cheating when you apply these rules.
It truly does. It's really the foundational text for social intelligence.
Yeah.
And, it's easy to just dismiss these principles as, oh, that's just common sense.
Of course.
But the brilliance of the book is that it forces you to confront the fact that our natural default setting, our human ego, it violates pretty much every single one of these rules.
So our mission today, it isn't to walk you through a bibliography. Instead, we've kind of distilled the content of all four main parts of the book.
Yep.
We've boiled it down into the essential, actionable nuggets of knowledge. We're going from this huge library of information straight to applied psychology you can use, like right away.
And that application, it really hinges on understanding the core demand the book makes of you, which is to fundamentally shift your whole approach.
From what to what?
From a self-seeking desire, for personal gain, to a mindset that's centered entirely on what the other person wants, what they need, and what they feel.
Because the entire system works by tapping into that one powerful underlying motivation that drives all human action, whether we admit it or not. It's that absolute fundamental craving for approval, for recognition, and a deep, deep desire to be important. If you can honestly and genuinely feed that hunger in others, you gain their influence.
Okay, let's unpack this. We should start with the foundational rules, part one, fundamental techniques in handling people. You can almost think of this section as the damage control segment.
Good way to put it.
The first non-negotiable principle is simple, but it is incredibly hard to execute. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain. It's so hard because when we see a mistake, our brain instantly tells us correct it. But Carnegie's holding up a mirror to the human ego. People are primarily driven by emotion, not by reason.
Right.
So criticism is a direct assault on pride. And when you attack someone's ego, they don't internalize the feedback. They instantly rationalize their actions.
We see people rationalize every single day, even in the most serious situations. I mean, the source points out that even family members of criminals will often blame the system, not the person, just to preserve that sense of self-worth.
Exactly. That's why the story of the famous test pilot Bob Hoover is so iconic.
Ah, this one's amazing.
Yeah, he had a mechanical failure. Both engines cut out mid-flight because a mechanic accidentally filled his propeller plane with jet fuel. He then managed this incredible emergency landing.
I mean, in that situation, every instinct in your body would tell you to just rage at that mistake. It's a life or death mistake.
Absolutely. But when Hoover found the young mechanic who was just crying and terrified of what was going to happen, he didn't yell. He didn't scold him. Instead, he simply expressed faith in the mechanic and said he wanted that same person to service his plane the very next day.
Wow.
And that decision wasn't just. It wasn't just benevolence. It's actually backed up by behavioral science. It connects directly to the findings of the psychologist B.F. Skinner.
Right, with the reinforcement.
Exactly. He demonstrated that reinforcement is far more effective than punishment. People and animals, they learn and modify their behavior much more effectively when they're rewarded for good actions than when they're punished for bad ones.
So Hoover reinforced the mechanic's future reliability by trusting him.
Yes, rather than punishing the mistake and just driving him away.
It takes real character to pause your own ego and offer that kind of understanding, which brings us right to principle 2. Give honest and sincere appreciation.
If that desire to be important is the core hunger we're feeding, then genuine appreciation is the meal. Phony flattery is just poison.
People see right through it.
Immediately. It's recognized as self-serving and patronizing. Sincere appreciation, though, that requires true focus.
So how do we make sure it's sincere?
Well, you need to follow Ralph Waldo Emerson's example. He believed that every single person he met was superior to him in certain ways, which means there was always something genuine to learn from them or to appreciate. Your appreciation has to be specific and targeted and focused on the good points that actually exist in the person in front of you.
Principle 3 wraps up this section, and it's the ultimate counterintuitive lesson for us, as inherently self-centered humans. We need to use that famous fishing analogy.
Oh, yeah?
You string a worm on the end of your line, not cheesecake. You put what the fish wants on the hook, not what you want.
And yet, We are constantly talking about what we want. We send emails that are like 90% about our deadlines and maybe 10% about the recipient's benefit.
Right.
Carnegie says the only way to influence others is to stop talking about yourself entirely. Talk about what they want and show them precisely how to get it by helping you.
The ultimate historical example is Andrew Carnegie himself. He was trying to get his adult relatives, who never wrote back to him, to actually reply.
I love this one.
So he didn't ask them to write. He wrote a letter mentioning he was sending a $5 bill, but he deliberately left the money out.
So by appealing not to his desire for a reply, but to their interest in that missing $5, he guaranteed an immediate response. You have to look at your communications and ask, is this about my worm or their cheesecake?
So if part one was about damage control, avoiding offense, part two is all about actively generating goodwill, building powerful connections. This is 6 ways to make people like you. It starts with principle 1, become genuinely interested in other people.
And the book uses that classic dog analogy. Why are dogs so universally adored?
They're always happy to see you.
They're always ecstatic to see you. They make you feel like you are the most important thing in their world. We are, by default, just interested in ourselves. I mean, when you see a group photo, which face is the very first one you look for?
Yours. Every time.
Yours. So the advice is brutally simple.
Huh.
You make friends much more easily by being interested in others than by trying to get them interested in you.
So a simple, actionable tip for you. Next time you meet someone, just try to spend 90% of the conversation asking about their background, their goals, their passions.
Principle 2 is the universal, immediate shortcut. Smile.
We really underestimate this one.
We do.
Yeah.
We underestimate the power of a simple, genuine smile. It's a message of goodwill that says, I like you, you make me happy, I'm genuinely glad to see you.
The transformation story here is fantastic. This guy, William B. Steinhardt, a New York stockbroker who is known around town as a notorious grouch.
Right.
He decided to experiment with smiling. He tried it on his wife, the doorman, the cashier, his colleagues.
And he reported more happiness in 2 months than he had experienced in the entire previous year.
Yeah.
But not only that, he found he handled complaints at work more easily.
Which translated directly into more revenue.
Exactly. The simple outward projection of goodwill actually changed his internal state and his professional outcomes.
Okay, principle 3. Remember a person's name. Forgetting a name just communicates a lack of care. It suggests you weren't engaged enough to even listen.
A person's name is their identity. It is, and I'm quoting here, the sweetest and most important sound in any language.
Andrew Carnegie understood this right when he was negotiating the merger with a competitor named Pullman.
Yes. He mentioned that the new company would still be called Pullman. And that small gesture, preserving the other party's identity and their legacy, it made them so much more eager to complete the deal.
And if you struggle with memory, like I do, the technique is simple. Just repeat it back immediately. Nice to meet you, Tom. And then weave it into the conversation a few times. It turns a piece of information into a concrete sound association.
And building on that engagement is principle 4. Be a good listener. We're usually way too busy formulating our own next brilliant sentence to truly hear the other person.
The internal focus is so intense. The source notes that a person's own minor headache means more to him than a famine killing 1 million people overseas. So by truly listening and validating their experience, you make the other person feel incredibly important and totally flattered.
Yeah, the best anecdote for this is when the author goes to a dinner party. He met a botanist and spent hours just silently listening to the man talk about exotic plants and experiments.
He barely said a word.
Barely said a word. Yet the botanist later told the host what an interesting conversationalist the author was. Listening creates the illusion of conversation while feeding the other person's ego.
Okay, so now that we've established some trust and rapport, we move to part 3. 12 ways to win people to your way of thinking. This is basically the conflict resolution section.
Yeah, this is where it gets tricky.
And we start with a mandate that just sounds impossible. The only way to get the best of an argument is to absolutely avoid it.
It sounds wrong, but arguing is just irrational in terms of influence. If you win, the other person resents you for hurting their pride. If you lose, well, you lose the argument.
We'll lose.
It is. 9 times out of 10, arguing only makes the other person dig in their heels and get stronger in their original view because they're driven by this need to defend their beliefs.
But what if you know you are factually 100% correct? Do you just stay silent?
You redirect the energy. You have to show respect, which leads right into principle 3. Never, ever say you're wrong.
Mhm.
Telling someone they are wrong is a direct attack on their self-esteem. It's basically saying, I'm smarter than you. And that just triggers immediate, irrational defensiveness.
The story of the expensive curtains really drives this point home. When one friend criticized the high price the author paid, the author immediately got defensive and defended the purchase.
Of course.
But when a second friend later praised the curtains, he felt totally disarmed and immediately admitted that he felt he had overpaid. The positive approach allowed him to freely acknowledge his own mistake.
And that leads to this incredibly powerful tool if you do realize you're wrong. Principle 4 is to admit it quickly and emphatically.
Right.
This just immediately changes the whole dynamic. The other person can no longer attack you to feel important. Instead, they are forced to show generosity by forgiving you.
The author was caught walking his dog without a leash, again by a police officer, before the officer could even open his mouth.
Yep.
The author immediately confessed how sorry and unacceptable his misdeed was. He completely disarmed the officer. The officer, having nothing left to argue against, became lenient and started arguing that the little dog wasn't really hurting anyone. Confession flips the roles.
So once you've avoided the argument, you need to steer the conversation. And that brings us to principle 5. Let the other person do a great deal of the talking. If you interrupt, it's like emptying a bottle they are trying to fill. They feel unheard.
And they just have to start all over again.
Exactly. You encourage them to express their ideas fully until they are finally receptive to new thoughts.
Then you can gently start moving them toward your conclusion. Principle 8 is to start with questions to which the other person will answer yes.
This plays directly into what psychologists call consistency bias. Once a person has verbally committed to a line of agreement, a series of yeses, it becomes psychologically painful for them to suddenly switch to a no. You have to guide them.
But even more subtle and maybe more powerful is Principle 9. Let the other person feel like the idea is his or hers.
This one is huge. People like their own ideas better. They feel a greater sense of control and importance when they're executing their idea.
We see this beautifully in negotiation. The author was dealing with a tough opponent and just deferred to him. You know more about this than I do. You are the world's expert. How can we reach an agreement?
And the opponent immediately changed from an adversary into a mentor. He was empowered to solve the problem that was now theirs.
Finally, we have Principle 11. Dramatize your ideas. The truth is often abstract or, let's face it, boring. It has to be made vivid and interesting to capture scarce attention.
The classic example is the cash register salesman who didn't just state the cost of slow checkouts. He threw pennies on the floor to visually represent the money being lost.
And the modern version of that, the intern who converted all his boring data entry tasks into a single slide that just said, "My internship saved $13,000 for the company."
That concrete, dramatized number immediately got management's attention. Which leads us right into part 4, which focuses on the most delicate area, changing people without giving offense or arousing resentment.
Basically, how to give feedback.
Exactly. And principle 1 sets the tone.
Mm.
Always begin with praise and honest appreciation.
This is the setup, right? It makes the recipient receptive to the difficult conversation that's about to happen. But the real magic, I think, comes with principle 2. Call attention to people's mistakes indirectly, and often just by swapping one key word.
You swap "and" for "but." The word "but" immediately wipes out everything positive that came before.
Like an eraser.
It is. Compare these two. You've done an excellent job working hard, but you need to stop making these careless mistakes versus you've done an excellent job working hard, and if you focus next on building a checklist, you'll improve your accuracy rate.
The second approach completely avoids placing blame or failure. It frames the mistake as a solvable opportunity for growth and preserves their sense of competence. It's such an easy hack to implement.
Principle 3 is about leveraging vulnerability. Talk about your own mistakes before you criticize the other person. This shows that the task is difficult and makes their mistake understandable, not a sign of incompetence.
The perfect example is that high-powered interviewer who started sessions with stressed-out intern candidates. By telling the embarrassing story of his own past interview, where he totally blanked and forgot the name Facebook.
It made the students laugh and feel immediately relaxed. It showed that this highly accomplished person across the table had been exactly where they were, making their own stress and their own mistakes feel, normal.
And we also have to remember Principle 7, give the person a fine reputation to live up to. If you want a colleague to be more trustworthy, you treat them as though trustworthiness is already one of their outstanding characteristics.
They will work hard to maintain that valuable status you assigned them. You set the bar high, and they jump.
And if someone is genuinely struggling, Principle 8 is critical. Make the fault seem easy to correct.
Yes. Tell them they have the natural talent, they have the fundamentals, but they just need practice. You cannot tell them they lack talent because that just removes all hope. Instead, you tell a poor dancer, you have a natural sense of rhythm, you're a natural-born dancer. You focus on potential, not present failure.
So if we pull back and connect all these four parts, the central shift in Carnegie's entire body of work is really this. Influence is achieved by fighting your own ego, by sincerely feeding that fundamental human hunger for importance and shifting your focus entirely from what we want to what they want.
It requires sincere persistence because our ingrained habits of criticism and self-interest, they're so powerful. I remember the story from the text about the difficult, lazy colleague.
Oh yeah, the one who delivered poor quality work, never responded to emails.
Right, until the author consistently applied specific appreciation, even ceasing the manager on small, positive improvements.
And the change was dramatic. Within weeks, the colleague turned into a proactive, friendly person. He even added the author on social media, which he'd never done for other coworkers.
The method works because you stopped starving and attacking his ego, and instead you fed it. It's not a parlor trick, it's a practice.
So what does this all mean for you this week? The source states very clearly that any weak person can criticize. It takes real character to understand and forgive. If this level of influence truly requires sincerity, empathy, and humility over, say, coercion and criticism, does that mean winning friends is not just a psychological hack, but a fundamental act of character development? Something for you to consider as you pause your criticism and start applying these principles today.